Hello, Internet. Thank you once again for joining me to talk all things vertical drama. We have a returning guest who I'm just going to let him introduce himself. Go on then, off you go.
Hi, I'm Felix. I do verticals sometimes, but you can find me at the gym or on a hiking trail or in bed watching a show or just recovering from the pain and suffering of the world.
Okay, I need to know now, what does Felix watch when you put the TV on?
Well, recently I've been watching Better Call Saul. I've been making my way through that show. I loved Breaking Bad. Everyone's like, it's like people are like, oh my gosh, you need to see this. Like I don't know, you don't need to see a lot of things, but people, including my mom, who I value the opinion of very highly, are like, you need to see Better Call Saul. So I've been making my way through that. It's a giant slow burn. I love it. I'm having a good time. And yeah, but if it's like TV, it's usually TV show. I'm not really good with like live TV anymore, but maybe that's a product of changing times, i.e.
I think that's where we are.
Yeah.
And then you work your way through your box set or something like that. I have to say, this is okay, right, I'm really proud of this, okay? Because obviously we have a great anti-hero in Breaking Bad, yeah?
That's true.
And then she's like, the move, Lafayette.
I like that connection there.
So, yes, when we last talked, we were pre-release of Game of Choice. So you're doing an excellent job of hyping it up, you and your fellow castmates, and then we've all watched it now. So obviously now we can talk in detail and assume people have watched it. If not, pause this, go and watch it. Get Terrified by Felix, come back. That role, obviously, is kind of iconic. I want to just dive into details. What was, for you, I guess, some of the favourite scenes or standout scenes that, like, now you've had a bit of time since, the ones that really stick with you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, geez, there's so many scenes in that I just really tried to savor as much as possible. I think that we were blessed with a great team, wonderful cast, and a lot of time and resource to get it right. So I think pretty much every scene, the basic answer is like every scene. But I think the Russian roulette scene, if you know, you know. I think selfishly as a performer, you dream of scenes like that where you can sort of control the room and you are the one driving the car, as it were. And I think for the entire production, really, they allowed me that agency artistically to really take control and drive it forward. I mean, this is an ensemble piece. Don't get me wrong. Everybody does an amazing job, from Michael to Brian to Kelsey to Elise to everybody in the background, key players. Everybody was really wonderful to work off of. But that was a scene where I felt like I could just grab the bull by the horns and just go for it. One scene that I was involved with, but one that I wasn't directly involved in the action of, was the first stunt sequence where you see Elise and a lot of the other contestants dangling from the ropes. We shot that in Joshua Tree, and we did a reasonable job to advertise that, I think, pre-release. But that's by far the craziest stunt in verticals, I think, ever. I mean, if I'm just being frank, we had practical rigs of people hanging and being controlled, going up and down by other people, trained professionals. It was all very safe. It's all up to code. But that was an incredible scene as well. Just seeing that in the middle of the desert, like high noon, as the sun was setting. And if you'll see in the project, my coverage was actually while the sun was setting, and we weren't sure if we were going to get the shots in or not. And our director was just like, just go, just like, we got the camera set up, just go for it. And so I basically did everything in one take, which was daunting. But again, another example of a scene where I felt like I could just kind of take control. I sort of locked in for that mega maniacal, ego-driven jester cartoon character guy. It worked out.
And one of the things I have is we don't really get a satisfying ending for Lafayette.
We don't.
We get, it's kind of, because it's like, oh, it's a bit of a sudden ending, but then no, there's a good ending. There's a really good setup of, right, plan. This is what they're going to do. But we don't know, there's no massive confrontation. I think that's the thing. As a viewer, as a normal linear, you're expecting the big confrontation between Eve and Lafayette, and that doesn't really happen. But It also feels like it's set up for sequel. Who knows whether that will happen. Yeah, I guess just your thoughts on that. I was a little bit like, kind of wanted the payoff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and that's totally fair. Yeah, so that's a criticism that I've heard quite a bit, and it's fair. There isn't a resolution to the character, nor is there like a major or sort of final confrontation between Eve and Lafayette. Whether that is setting us up for a sequel, who's to say? I can't say anything. Not that I have any information that you don't have, but the domestic reaction to our production was so strong. People really loved it. I would not be surprised if people saw this, and I would say they currently see it as an example of what we can do with the medium of verticals. So with that in mind, I hope that we can dive a little bit deeper into Lafayette's backstory, into potentially having a resolution, whether that means a sequel or not. But yeah, like I read the script and I noticed that, and I was like, oh, okay, like we'll get a scene. And we didn't. So, but there is a scene. There is a scene where I tell her that she's, sorry, spoiler alert. And there is a moment there where you think perhaps there's going to be like this big blow up fight, and it doesn't really happen. I sort of fade off into obscurity.
You get slightly upstaged, I think, don't you?
By
I think that's what happens.
Actually, Michelle
by
Grant.
the kind of revelation of perhaps who's actually in control of the game.
Right. And then also
Lafayette slightly literally. I feel almost literally. Anyway, this is about me.
Well, but then there is an end sequence, which I'll reserve this for people who haven't seen it yet. You should go see it if you haven't already. But then there's a scene at the end with two characters that basically come back, and it's this big holy shit moment of just really getting a good third-person perspective of the scope of the game and who's actually running things. As much as I'd like to say that Lafayette is the omnipresent godlike character that he pretends to be, he's maybe not everything that he's chalked up to be or advertises himself as.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's actually more of a cog, isn't he, than you think?
A what?
He looms so large for the contestants, but actually he's more of a cog in the kind of bigger.
Oh, a cog. I totally misheard you.
Cog. No, it was.
Yeah, he is a dick.
I don't want to know where your brain went. It was a cog in a wheel. Cog in a wheel.
Cog. Okay.
Just the English accent.
Yeah, he's a part of a greater machine. And I think that's part of the beauty of this production, that it goes that deep as to say that there are, this is a systemic issue. There's systemic abuse. There's an institution behind the game. And I think that makes it so much more interesting than just having like a singular person just sort of like rule over the game. Now, of course, you need the presenter. You need the guy who's like giving information, essentially like, somewhat biased narrator. And I will gladly hold that flag up and say that I will, bang the cymbals together, dance like a monkey, and be the, I guess, mega maniacal cartoon character.
Is there any sort of catchphrase out of that's come that people quote at you or anything?
Oh, well. That probably. I'm sorry if that was like really cringe, but like
but that's cool, isn't it? I was thinking that would be the next level for verticals, to kind of get catchphrases, isn't it? I mean, you don't get much.
That would be Lafayette's catchphrase. You can really enter any.
Decide. But
really, if you wanted to, you could enter most situations like that. Funerals, weddings.
Yeah.
A funeral wedding. Imagine. You got to keep people on their toes somehow, and whether that's saying something wildly inappropriate, like well, in a sort of mischievous way, then who's to say? Who's to judge that?
And you popping in at vertical weddings now, like a Lafayette cameo.
He's the MC.
The happy ending, and then just Lafayette going, oh, it's so good.
Exactly.
We need this. We need the vertical multiverse.
We're building it.
You do this. That role is obviously like, I'm sure made people see you in a new way of like, he's freaking terrifying. But then you also had your whole, I guess I always think of it as Summer I Turned Pretty Conrad moment with Summer I Turned Bad, which is like basically beach heartthrob, I would say.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of, was it warm on the beach, first of all? Because obviously
it was temperate. It was really nice. We were in this place called
and some in costume. So I always worry about these things. Is everyone warm?
Trust me, I would have spoken up if I was too cold. I'm a diva. Ask anybody. I'm really hard to work with. Like, you should see my contract. It's like only green M&Ms. I get the Star Wagon. People can't look me in the eye. They have to call me Mr. Merback or number one. It's like standard stuff.
Excellent.
All jokes. I try to be as humble as possible. And one of the great things about working at that time in Turkey was that it was a beautiful summer. We worked in this place called Şile, Sile, with a little funny accent there on the end. And it was beautiful. It was really like a picturesque, almost, East Hampton's beachside landscape. And we had the privilege of shooting there for, I think, 4 days. We traveled there on location, got some little bungalows where we were hanging out in hammocks. And it was great. It was really wonderful. I'm not sure if, we're mentioning that as like the dichotomy between Lafayette and somebody like Mason O'Neill, but I really am blessed to have had those two projects. I heard so many amazing things about Drama Pops and specifically that team with Palm Film.
On
So I was
film.
going to do anything to work with them. And thankfully a direct offer came through and I just said yes. Like I didn't even read the contract. I was like, please send me to Turkey. And we had an amazing time. And I'm really thankful for that. And it gave me the opportunity to show that I can do both, that I
Mm.
can, that I've got that in my wheelhouse. That has happened. That just so happens to be a series that has not only critically done super well, but commercially. People love it. I mean, across a bunch of platforms. Instagram on Drama Pops. It was like it's been in the top 10 since it came out. And not that I want to be a numbers freak, but I think that my career in the vertical industry has been like, we've had a couple of projects do pretty well. And then for the most part, some of them are pretty obscure and different. And I'm cool with that. Like I love the fact that I've had the opportunity to play so many different characters and do so many great projects like How I See Through You. We were just talking about that earlier. But then you have something like this that is different, but is really high quality. And it looks like a real movie because it is a real movie. And it does really well because it's like it hits the zeitgeist. The cultural relevancy of what we're doing at that time really hits. We were lucky because the Summer I Turned Pretty movie announcement came out or something along those lines. And
Yeah.
we had released like right on that day. So I think we got a good initial push and people have seen it and they're like, wow, this is actually a really high quality movie. And that's what we set out to do.
So I think that's the key, isn't it? About often stuff that I'll like and love in verticals. I'm like, this is brilliant. A platform won't necessarily see its success because obviously they're coming from a business sense of we need it to deliver certain numbers. And yes, it's lovely if you think it's nice and we appreciate that. But actually, when it comes down to it, we need viewers and eyes on. So it's always an extra beautiful thing when I love something and other people love something, but also it delivers numbers. You're like, right, we're ticking everyone. Everyone's happy here. That's a really good situation to be in. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that's rare for pretty much any, whether it's like a television show or a movie, vertical web series, anything. It's hard to like get the triple crown, and I feel like that achieved that and has continued to surge in relevancy and popularity. And I want people to see that project. I think that's a great representation of what we can do with the vertical form. And then also, I guess selfishly, like, this is what I'm about. This is the type and quality of project that I want to be a part of. I think that this touches on the heart of like, people want to escape. And people, and for one reason or another, watch verticals. I don't want to assign any kind of meaning to that because it's all very individual. But I do want to serve as like, entertainment. I do want to entertain people. And I also want to, see if I can make people smile, if I can make them cry. That's the beauty of what we do here. I think that we have a good lens through which to do that. And that project does a great job with that, I think.
How's your swimming? Because obviously you're a lifeguard in that. So I just wondered,
Not to brag.
you a decent swimmer?
Not to brag, but I got these big old hands and I have size 15 feet. So if I weren't a good swimmer, honestly, take me behind the woodshed and shoot me in the head because like, this is what I'm built for. Okay. I'm built to be a swimmer.
I'm surprised you didn't get like scouted by like some swim team of like Michael
I know,
Phelps.
right? Like what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell? I'm like the next Michael Phelps and I'm doing movies? Like, come on. Jesus Christ.
That's parallel world where you're winning a lot of Olympic gold medals, right? I also wanted to ask as well, obviously, it's fun, the frozen banana. Did anyone eat the frozen banana? Was there actually frozen banana to eat?
No, I can't. That's so funny because I wasn't sure how that was going to go. And I actually, not to pull the veil or anything, but I don't think that the frozen bananas were actually real. I think those were all props.
Movie magic.
Yeah. If you need to cut that out of the final podcast, I understand. It's a bit
not quite like a sort of childhood thing that we've revealed. I think people will cope with that. I don't think we've broken
it's like Santa
beliefs.
Claus isn't real, and the
frozen. No, Felix, stop. This is not going. Stoner.
Monica Harry all the way.
Well, yeah, we were doing all right.
Yeah.
So when that comes out, and obviously it does really well, I'm just intrigued because I think there are certain pairings, and obviously that worked really well sort of for yourself and Cayla Brady. It was kind of there's obviously loads and loads of things that made that project so great. I mean, I want to say everyone in that project's brilliant. I mean, Harrison's brilliant and Sydney's brilliant and just everyone. But then obviously you and Cayla were paired together again in more recent project, which I cannot, Taming the Mad King, which again is a YA one, but with kind of quite a different vibe. Do you think, I mean, is that on purpose, do you think? People we want some of that magic that delivers numbers? Yeah,
for sure.
It is on purpose. Yeah.
For sure. There's no shame in it, I think, admitting that. Obviously, like, this is no slight against anybody's ability. I mean, Cayla Brady is world class. She's, if I could just put her on a pedestal really quick, she's got the Triple Crown thing that we've talked about. She's got the hit series, rightfully so. She's an incredibly watchable, talented, beautiful human being. And so it's kind of a no-brainer to get her on any project that's going on. But then, it's like, if I'm going to toot my own horn, okay, like if I can just ring the bell a little bit, I think that I'm all right. I think that I do an okay job in what I do. And the fact that we did have the example of This Summer I Turned Bad doing well, I think, you look at that YA, Sarah Sternheimer, I have to give her a shout out because she's our wonderful casting director. And she kind of set it up. She made it happen. It wasn't going to happen at first, really. It was one of those classic Hollywood stories of, it's like they wanted to go in a certain direction, and then I think it didn't really work out. And then last minute, Sarah calls me and she's just like, Felix, can you send in a tape like right now? I was like at Trader Joe's or something in Studio City. And I was like, I mean, I guess I could run home and like get a tape in for you. So I send the tape in and almost immediately I book the role. Again, it's with Cayla, so I don't even look at the contract. I'm like, I'll do anything if she's in it. And yeah, so it's no mistake. We don't have to be shy about admitting the fact that we had a hit series, and pairing us together would do well again. And from what I hear, it is also doing quite well. Please don't lambast me in the comments or take me to task on this, but I think this might be the only series that has released fully on TikTok. Because we had an executive producer from TikTok sort of oversee the project. So it was a dual release on Love Shots, Love Shots, and then also TikTok. And I don't have TikTok, so I don't really know, but I saw some preliminary numbers and people are really liking it. People are digging it. A lot of likes, a lot of views. So I think they were right. I think they were like, putting Felix and Cayla together is not a bad idea. And we made it happen again. Sorry, I trailed off and totally
No. That was really good information. Because hopefully people can go find it on TikTok now, which would be awesome. And
yeah. So go to the Love Shots TikTok, and I believe that they're also running ads since we're in partnership with TikToks. Shouldn't be too hard to find. I think it's pretty popular at this point, and it's definitely worth a watch. I think that it's definitely different.
To ask, obviously, when you started Verticals, I would say you almost playing a bit older, maybe. I'm not going to ask your age because he never asked a gentleman his age, but you're kind of playing kind of billionaires, and there's kind of a sense of they are older, and there's children involved and stuff. So you're like, okay, well, they've got to be at least whatever. And then I feel like you've de-aged because you've now found this run of you're suddenly back in high school. Like, did you predict that in your career that you would suddenly have a YA sort of mini?
That is interesting.
Going on?
I don't think that anybody's really put it that way. That's sort of sending me through a bit of a loop. I haven't thought about that. But, I think that's also a product of what the market has demanded now. I think that when it first started, I can't really tell you. I think that there were maybe like one or two YA verticals that were, you're more of a historian in that respect. But I mean, I think that the YA
really
thing
weren't much until about autumn, winter 24.
Yeah. So I think that really the only jobs were the older characters. And so I think at that point I might have had longer hair, and I think that my playing range generally is from 18 to 27, 28, maybe 30, maybe I can stretch to 30. But I think as a product of having been in the business for a little bit longer, having enough people tell me I look a certain way, and sort of figuring out my type and playing the X number of characters at X number of age ranges, I think that the niche that I've sort of landed into has required me to play younger. And because of that, I've sort of adapted to that. And I think that generally I have maybe this is just me coping with getting older, but I think that I have a younger look probably. And so I think that I fit pretty well into the YA world, even though I have these examples of having played these like CEO characters that are maybe late 20s, early 30s. But what I found is typically those characters are going to be played by guys who just, I think look a little bit older. Right. Like who can grow the full beard, which I can't do. Thanks, Dad and Mom, I guess. And I think I've got my insouciance left. I think that my childlike wonder of exploration and discovery and I still have lower inhibitions, and I think that allows me to come off maybe in a more youthful way, potentially.
I just think it's really cool that, you've ended up having, I guess verticals give a lot of you this. You can actually have a really, really wide range of age that you play, possibly more than you would in standard TV or
I've
film.
Benjamin Buttoned.
Yeah, you have. So congratulations. So projects, what would you like to talk about first? Because you have a few upcoming projects you'd like to talk about. So I'm going to let you start.
Yeah. So, oh, wow. Okay. So I'll start with ones that maybe I can be a little bit more brief about. I'm going to adjust my camera here for a moment. Okay. So I've got one with Reverse Clock called Love Trap with the lovely Hannah Marie Record. I apologize. Record. Tomato. Really sorry, Hannah, but she's lovely. She's, again, world class, so incredibly talented. Absolutely the immense honor of sharing the screen with her. And we were joking about this where everyone's like under an NDA and can't say anything. I'll give you a little bit. There's some suspension of disbelief that has to happen because it is a bit of an age gap romance story, and I'm not sure if you've seen Hannah, but and if you look at me, we're pretty close in age. I mean, we are essentially the same age.
Who's playing older?
She is. And so we had to do a thing where I was wearing glasses
that's
and putting the hair in front of my face and, acting all boyish. And so it sort of works. I mean, well, okay, so it does work because I think the chemistry reads really well on screen. We worked very well together. The script was good. We were set up for success with that. And so, again, some suspension of disbelief has to going into it, I think, has to occur for you to
we're in verticals. We've already, abandoned logic slightly. So
That's what I'm saying. I mean, come on now.
And if you guys are selling it and making it work, then that just takes everyone with you. So it's all fun.
Yeah, so it's very sweet. I'd say it's like rom-com. Definitely got the vertical beat structure. A lot of drama, a lot of romance, a lot of forbidden, like, yes, no, we can't, maybe, but I love you. The classic stuff that people I know will love. Let's see. So did that. Taming the Mad King. We just talked about that. That came out. That's doing well. So happy that I got to do that. And I just wrapped my first project in China. And that was...
Would you like to share your story about China?
Okay.
I feel that's why you wanted to do this interview.
We live in a world of clips, so I'm going to give you the clipped out version of what happened, and then I'll get into it, okay? So here's the sound bite. You ready for this? So, book this role in China. As soon as I get off the plane in Hong Kong, I develop what was either bacterial pneumonia or bronchitis, so I'm the sickest I've probably ever been or have been in several years. I go to the hospital 2 or 3 times. The first time, basically nothing happens. The second time, they give me really strong antibiotics, to which then I can only guess I had some sort of central nervous system reaction to the antibiotics that they prescribed, levofloxacin, which is actually the highest box warning by the FDA here in America because of severe symptoms like potential tendon rupture and central nervous system issues. This led to what I can only describe as a dissociative panic attack on set. Love that. And then I locked in. My soul left my body in China. Never been to China before. I merged back with my physical body. And then I think I gave one of my best performances ever. I think that's what happened. So yeah.
Just practically. Okay. When you get off a plane, was it when you got off the plane that you're like, I feel really ill?
I'm happy to get into details here.
Like what do you actually do? So does someone meet you and then you can go, I don't feel that well? Just because this is most people's absolute worst, well, not worst nightmare, but it's not something just practically, like what do you actually
horrifying.
do? I don't feel that well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm going to die. Yeah. So I probably went to China with some minor cold. I think like maybe some sort of sinus thing was going on, but whatever. But I can't sleep on planes. And this is no shade against China at all, but the air quality is different, to say the least. I think that the combination of me already being slightly sick mixed with the air quality and the difference in air, certainly the difference in temperature, since it was about I think 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit over there. So it was very cold. I didn't sleep on the planes because I don't sleep on planes. I just can't. I didn't sleep for about 24 hours. And then I probably picked something else up. People were on the plane, open mouth coughing like infants. And, if I'm trying to sleep, I'm probably suctioning all of the air in on the airplane. So I'm assuming it was a combination of all of those things. To which then I woke up the first night in a cold sweat, fever of about 102 degrees, coughing very badly. I had a headache. I was pretty much name the symptom and I had it. So I go to this table read, I go to this fitting, and I'm struggling through it. It's really hard. And I basically tell them I think I'm sick. I think I'm really, really sick right now. So they bring me a thermometer and I take my temperature. It's 102 degrees Fahrenheit. They take me to the hospital. And here's where I learned that Chinese healthcare blows US healthcare out of the water. Okay. They had me in and out of there in 1 hour for about $50. They got me a full metabolic blood panel. They swabbed my mouth. They gave me a hug. Okay. They gave me an IV and medication and all of this stuff for nothing. I was like, this is great. I'm so glad I got sick here rather than in the US.
In the UK, we could do it for free, but you'd probably still be there waiting to be seen.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, I don't want to be at the hospital for 6 hours. I was in and out in an hour. And they tested for everything. Nothing came back positive. No COVID, no flu, no cold, they tested for a bunch of stuff. So they gave me some traditional Chinese medicine and eventually some, just some cold medication, basically. I go back. Shoot, what am I doing with my camera? So sorry about that. They gave me an IV, which I'd never had before. That made me feel slightly better. And then the next day was day one. Again, woke up in a cold sweat, still had a fever, but I was getting slightly better. So I do the first day, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling all right. I have to do a shirtless scene in a house that doesn't have central heating. And about halfway through the day, I just go right downhill again. Every symptom is worse. The headache returns. The cough comes back full force. I've got the fever and I go home and I'm like, please God, just let me sleep this off. Don't let this happen to me. This can't be happening to me right now. So I go to sleep, wake up at about 3 and I'm like, I need to go to the hospital again. So I call my AD and to his credit, he did you catch what I have?
Yeah, no, I think just thinking about it made me want to cough. So I muted myself so no one had to hear it.
So again, I go to the hospital, this time a public hospital. And again, I'm in and out in an hour, $50, full metabolic blood panel, whatever. They gave me the runabout and they checked my previous results and without question, they just prescribed me this antibiotic of levofloxacin. So I'm like, great, I've got my medication. I start taking it and immediately feel better. And again, coughing up, I'm sorry to be graphic, but I'm coughing up green phlegm. It's really horrible symptoms.
I feel we're totally revealing all about Hollywood, even superstars like Felix Merback.
Oh yeah, I got about as sick as you can get. But then I, this is just my hypochondria kicking in. I read some of the side effects in levofloxacin, and they were like, "Don't worry, you're probably fine. This is a well-tolerated drug, generally speaking, but some severe symptoms of, or side effects of the drug, rather, are severe tendon rupture, like Achilles rupture. Apparently that's happened in some controlled research trials, which is not very fun. And then what's really concerning is that sometimes some people have experienced permanent nerve damage and central nervous system reactions, such as paranoia, nervousness, all of that. And while I was getting better, my fever went away. But in the middle of basically at the end of the day, I was doing the shirtless tub scene where I'm supposed to be all sexy. And I just zoned out. I just couldn't, it was my ears were ringing and I basically started having a panic attack. And I had started thinking about I was like, is this the antibiotic? Is this just me having finally come to terms with essentially how traumatic this whole situation has been, being in a new country, getting this sick, feeling like I've let the production down in some way, even though they've been able to successfully reschedule around me. So I took 10 I took 10. I had my moment. It felt like my soul had detached from my body. I
Mm.
apologize if this sounds hyperbolic, but this is literally what I was
No,
going
no, no,
through.
no, no, no.
But then I finished the day. I went home. I took a shower. I ate some food and I was like, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And I got some sleep. I
Mm.
didn't wake up in a cold sweat. I went to set the next day and just like my whole world opened up. It was really strange because I had hit rock bottom. I
Mm.
had hit rock bottom. I didn't know if I was so touch and go. I was like, I don't know if I can do this project. I don't know if I'm going to die. It
Mm.
literally, you've been so sick before where you're like, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get better. It
Yeah.
literally felt like I was going to die, but I was fine. I got to set. I was happy for the first time since being there. This production had gone out of their way to like make sure that I was okay. They rescheduled around me. They took me to the hospital. They were getting me anything I wanted. They were like, can we
Mm.
get you tea? Can we get you some medicine? My co-star, the beautiful Emily Bennett, the absolutely wonderfully talented Emily Bennett, was my rock. She supported me. She was there for me. She was asking me if I was okay. Like everybody, it's like the community came together to pick me back up. And
Mm.
I just felt like this immense, almost like this shift in my mentality. This total like I was like, I'm alive. I'm gonna be okay. And so I get
Yeah.
through the day and I'm just like locked in. I'm there with my scene partners and I'm steady and my lines are just like they're there. I don't have to think about it, but I've let go. I don't have any expectations of what's gonna come out and I just like day after day after day, I'm getting better and I feel like my performance is just coming through in a way that I don't really feel very often. Even in the performances where people tell me like they feel like I've done a good job, even then sometimes I'm thinking about hitting my mark. I'm thinking about finding my light or whatever. I had this immensely rare experience on set where I felt like I was this guy. And I feel so giddy talking about it because like it was fun. It became fun again. I was like, I'm alive. I'm doing what I love in this, country that has like, support, basically like, I guess, yeah, helped me recover with this production team that has put me on their back.
Mm.
And so I get through the production, we wrap it, we go to a hot pot place. My producer lies and says it's my birthday, and they come out and sing for me and bring me a cake.
Good stuff.
It's the happiest I've been in a very long time. And honestly, if you had asked me when I first got there if I wanted to stay in China, I was like, no, get me the hell out of here. I need to leave. But as
Mm.
soon as we wrapped the project, I was like, I don't know if I want to go. It became
Mm.
such a positive experience. And even now, I've come back to LA, I've recentered, whatever, I've done my laundry, I've bought my groceries. I just feel like grateful my for life, for being able to stand, like wake up, walk around, breathe. We take that for granted. And I'm very aware of that in this moment. And so I feel like I've got a lot of love in my heart right now. Yeah. So China kind of, I think, might have changed my life potentially.
Have you ever heard of the phrase flow state?
Yes, I have. I believe that is.
I feel like you kind of went there with the acting because of how
Yeah.
extreme it's been.
It was a
All
supercalifragilistic
those
expialiflow state.
thoughts just went and you were just in the, yeah, as you said, locked in the zone, in the flow.
Hmm.
All the things that your brain would normally give you to think about were just gone because you were in the moment.
I was, yeah. And it's just rare. Like even in everyday life, I feel to find that, like, yeah, the flow state. I like that. Martial artists talk about that a lot, where they're just, their body is, I guess Bruce Lee talked about be like water.
Mm.
I felt like I was the water flowing and the like.
And how are you feeling now? That's the
Feel good.
question.
I feel good. I've got a bit of a residual cough because whatever it was filled my lungs
Mm.
with phlegm and mucus. So I feel good though. I mean, I don't have any symptoms anymore. I feel like I'm basically back to normal now. But I've had some experiences in my past where I've been very sick. I've gotten very ill. So I think a part of it was like it had triggered some feelings of having been so sick before and
Mm.
not knowing if I was going to get better. But now, like, I feel very good. I feel ready to go. Yeah. And today's a beautiful day in LA. It's like the perfect, it's like 77. The skies are blue. I woke up early today, went to the gym, saw a couple of friends. I did an audition that I feel like I did a good job with. I'm going to go see a friend and help him move in later. That's a privilege. And I think that sometimes we take that for granted. I'm content.
I'm so glad you're okay. But
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, I get it. You get a bit of perspective when something like that happens.
Yeah. I'm sorry if
Yeah.
that was like a lot.
No, it's like it's like a bit of a reset, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a reset. It did genuinely feel like a reset that I needed. We all work we work hard. You work really hard, Jen. And I think about that sometimes, and like, what is a break really? What is a break for the individual? For me, it used to be like I could just go back home for a week and it would help me reset, but I still find myself in that work mode, in that state where I'm still like the cortisol levels are really high. And I guess sort of ironically, this allowed me my stress levels were as high as they could ever get. And then they just dropped to an all-time low. And I was able to just like live life in a stress-free environment because things were kind of catered to me and taken care of me. And I was finally getting better. And, I was loving life and I didn't feel depressed or anxious or whatever. And that was the reset that I needed. And so it was like a reset.
Do you speak to your mum? Because that's the thing a mum would worry about.
I talk to her every day.
I could see.
She was the person I called when I was having
I'll fly out.
Well, she wasn't going to do that. She was trapped in Indiana, or is currently still trapped in Indiana with 2 feet of snow.
Oh God, they got the snow as well. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, big snow. But she's, I love my mom. She's like the coolest person ever. Shout out Althea, Althea Chrome. She knit the gloves for Coraline and, the star sweater, and she's just a badass. I had my moment there in China where I was having I was just having my moment, and I called her, and no judgment, no nothing. She was just like breathing with me. She's just like, she's telling me it was going to be okay. And, that she was always going to be there for me. And, it's that boost that I needed because like I've been independent for so long. I was out of the house as soon as I could get out of the house, and she's still there for me. So then of course, like as soon as I started getting better, she was like calling me every day, checking in on me. And I needed that. That was a good tether back to reality.
Mums are for.
I know.
So, presumably, I think I know the answer. Would you like to go back to China?
I would. I would like to. Now, so if it's with the same production company, absolutely 100%. No questions asked, contract is signed, I'm out there.
Yeah.
It would also, I think if it was in the winter, probably not. Like, if I'm just being honest, I don't know if I can handle another Chinese winter. I think it almost killed me the first time. However, in the summer, maybe in the spring, maybe in the fall, I'd be interested. It also just, is getting to travel is such a big perk of the job, right? Like, and I've only seen the smallest bit of such a huge country. I'd love to, maybe go to Beijing. If I could shoot in Hong Kong, that would also be neat. Something, or maybe something tropical. I don't know. I'm picking and choosing, but I would go back to China.
I was thinking, apart from everything else and the fact obviously you were so ill, was you didn't actually get to do the bit that is obviously one of the joys of going to China. If you get to see a bit of sightseeing or culture or just whatever, I mean, you did, but it was a hospital rather than a tourist retreat.
It was a really realistic set. Yes, the set decorator did a great job with that hospital. They had antibiotics and IVs and everything, so good for them. No, yeah, you're totally right. I didn't have the buffer that I probably would have liked to have had. And we were in Qingdao, which is like the movie capital of China. It was really neat. They had like literally on the hill, like the Hollywood sign, it says Qingdao. It's really cute. A lot of beautiful sound stages as well. Yeah, so I would have liked to have explored a little bit more, but is what it is. I'll be back.
So we have that one to look forward to coming out, and that's with Emily Bennett, isn't it? That's correct.
Yes, and she does an excellent job. Just watch out for her. She's like up and coming. She's done quite a few verticals now, but she's really, really wonderful. Let's see, what's the name of it? Right Before I Love You. Right Before I Love You.
So, you also mentioned you have a project coming up that you're going to film with Sarah Milisky.
That's right.
Are you able to talk a little bit about that? And then we need to move on to your feature film as well.
Yes, it's called Swipe Left. It is a very different type of vertical here. I'd say I don't want to throw any of my other projects under the bus, but I think this is the best vertical script. Really, one of the best scripts I've ever read. I mean, I think in general, whether it's been a vertical or whether it's been a feature, it's so clever. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. Like the guy that I get to play is just like, he's oh man. I don't want to say too much because we literally haven't filmed it yet. I don't know when you're going to release this, but basically it centers around an AI driven dating app that a very malicious tech CEO uses against his ex-girlfriend, who is using the dating app. So that's what I'll say. And it's, again, very different. Sarah Maliski's
That's
playing
very
the
good
lead.
setup already. It
Yeah.
feels kind of current as well. I like
I
it.
know. It's really great. It's very topical. And they hit me with the first draft. I came back to them and basically said, this is really good. And they were like, never mind, here's the actual finalized version. And I was like, I didn't know that it was possible to get better than perfect, but here we are. Like the script is really great. And I think people are going to enjoy it quite a bit. And of course, Sarah Maliski, I mean, Queen.
She's the queen. I have to ask, it's just interesting you saying that. I get the feeling from you that you would say that scripts are generally going in a good direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say even the ones that, I mean, look, like we have come such a long way from days past. I mean, we were dealing with literally like not even formatted scripts. Like it would be, be like a couple words on a page and, it's not, we don't even know if it's English, So we've definitely come a long way in terms of quality, like consistency. I think across the board is getting a lot better. And honestly, maybe this is just a product of me because I feel like I've gotten a little bit choosier with my projects. I feel like I've done a good job with I guess, picking and choosing my shots here and there and making sure that the projects I'm doing are of the quality that I want to represent. So this is I would say a bit of a different example. This has, been run through the mill of film and TV professionals over the course of several months. Usually don't get that type of treatment with vertical scripts. It does get vetted through a lot of systems, but not nearly as many as the one that this has come through. But yes, to answer your question, sorry about not being brief. I'm incapable of that. But yes, by and large, the scripts are getting much better.
Right. Which is just encouraging. It's just encouraging for everyone, isn't it? I mean,
For sure.
it's a good thing. So we should celebrate good things. We like forward progress. So now your feature film, because this is the thing. We have to remember, everyone, that Felix does not just live in a vertical screen. Felix is also available in a horizontal screen. So we have things like Samurai Turn Bad, which are very clever because you can watch it both ways. But then we also have Dead Janitors Club. Please, can you talk a little bit about that, young man?
Sure. Yes, I can. So I shot this. I was the first ever, I guess, higher budget indie film that I was number one on. I shot that about a year and a half ago. An amazing, amazing project with the team at Girls and Corpses, run by Robert Ryan. Shout out Robert Ryan. He's the mastermind behind Girls and Corpses, which is a magazine/media company. And he's also done a lot of really wonderful film work. And this was his endeavor to do something a little bit more, well, literally autobiographical. It's about this guy named Jeff Klima, who was a bit of a deadbeat, early 20-something homeless guy in LA. He was just trying to make it and doing whatever, just trying to make ends meet. And again, real story. You could look it up. It's called Dead Janitors Club. It's a book that he wrote, which is dramatized slightly, just like our movie, but still nonetheless a real story. And he shacked up with this crooked police officer who he found on Craigslist, who ropes him into cleaning up crime scenes. Again, this is the early 2000s. Some of the restrictions are not as strong. So they would basically lie to police officers, say, hey, we're here to clean up the crime scene. And they would end up robbing the places that they would clean the crime scenes up at. So super unethical. And then eventually one thing leads to another. And I'll let you watch the movie when it comes out because we just secured distribution. I can't say who with, but it has hit international markets now. It's shopping around to some other bigger buyers. It's in Berlin right now, I believe. And then we'll take it to Cannes and some other places. But I do know that as a part of our deal, we will have a limited theatrical release, including in LA. So it will be, I believe, the first movie. No, sorry. Yeah. Well, first movie that I'm the lead in that will get a theatrical release that you can go see in theaters. So that's exciting. Yeah. So
that's like a moment, isn't it? That's really cool.
For sure. And yeah, again, a huge blessing that they, this is probably the biggest project that I've done. Again, it's a, step in the right direction. And from what I've heard, they've recut the movie slightly. and I thought I saw a screening of it, and I thought it was really great then. Apparently it's gotten even better. So we'll see what comes of that. I think that there are going to be some press releases coming soon about the distributor, about where it's at in the international markets, where it's shopping around. We'll probably get some sort of like release. I don't know where, but yeah, that's just the update that I was given by my producer. That's an exclusive, by the way.
We like an exclusive. I was going to say, one of the things I love about this is obviously a lot of people, the first time they're going to encounter your work is going to be through their phone and the vertical. But then I would say there will be a percentage who will now go and watch this at the cinema because you're in it and that's how they found you, but who actually want to see your work elsewhere. And then something that's kind of come up at sort of some of the more sort of industry things that I've been at is that actually it's probably not long until you guys are going to have the pulling power and the access to a new audience that potentially horizontal work, whatever that is like, well, actually there's a benefit to us, just the audience and the eyes that you can all bring. And I feel like even since this movie's obviously was filmed, obviously everything's taken off so much that there's probably your name being attached to it brings even more than it would have, say, 18 months ago.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think you're totally right that because I mean, traditionally speaking, you want bankable actors in your project to sell it. And, this is no disservice to me, but I'm at an early portion in my career where, I guess people would look at me and just have a certain opinion about what my ability is to put people in seats. But thankfully, as another blessing of the vertical thing, and to sort of reiterate your point, is I've gained a little bit more popularity. There have been some more eyes on my stuff. And I think that makes it so that me being a part of a project does bring some more eyes to it naturally. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more, just people supporting my work. It was one of my goals coming here is I just want people to see my stuff. Whatever comes with that comes with that. And whatever comes with that, I'm ready for, because I've been doing this for a while now. But yeah, hopefully that means that whenever we get our firm release dates in theaters, that people are, oh my gosh, I was a fan of this series and I'll be happy to see him in this traditional project. Or, I was a fan of him in this traditional project. Maybe I want to go see his other stuff. And then that leads them to some of the vertical projects. I think it's a bit of a quid pro quo.
I think that'd be wonderful. That's my hope, that it all just gets people exploring different things and they kind of move between the genres. So that's what I really hope for it. But I also just think it's interesting in the numbers. There was someone on the panel I was on who made a really good point about he'd made a series for Real Short, I think Senator's Son, that came out the same day as like the latest season of White Lotus was released. The one on Real Short had a lot more views than the latest season of White Lotus. Now, obviously, barely anyone's heard of that because it was like a sort of, it was a good, decent mid Real Short hit. But it's just, there are a lot of eyes on these. There's a lot of people around the world. So I'm just thinking, in a way, they're not, it's a way of bringing people with people like yourself as you have these other projects of actually, it's bringing people back to the cinema. Does that make sense? It's like a full loop.
I mean, that's the hope that it can actually serve as a bit of a reinvigorating force to something that has been on a bit of a downswing in terms of the traditional sense. So a boy can dream.
Fingers crossed. Okay, final questions. What are you most excited about for the next 2-3 months?
I think just sorry, I want to give you a good answer here. I think living my life. I think just being able to do what I love, continue to do what I love, see the people that I love, breathe the air, and just live. I think I very much look forward to that and so much more.
That's a beautiful ending. I think we end it there. Thank you for your time. Always, you're amazing.
Thank you for